Okay, in today's lesson, we will be doing the following question, which says use the quadratic formula to solve each of the following quadratic equations. So, our first equation is x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0, and 3 minus 11x minus 4x squared equals to 0. So, there are some key points that we need to highlight in our question. It says use the quadratic formula to solve the following quadratic equations. So before we solve, there are some things that we need to identify. Now, what is our quadratic formula? What is a quadratic equation? And what are we solving for? Now, our quadratic formula is a case of saying x is equal to minus b plus and minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And since we're dealing with quadratic equations, all quadratic equations take the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now, how do we find the values of our a, b, and c? We find the values of a, b, and c by using a comparison method. So by comparison, sorry, I should be a. By comparison, x squared plus 3x minus 4 is equivalent to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, we're going to compare the coefficient of the x squares, the coefficient of the x, and the constant terms. So by comparison, a is equal to 1, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to negative 4. Now that we have found the values of a, b, and c, we are now going to substitute the values of a, b, and c into our quadratic formula. So let me rewrite the quadratic formula. And there is no need to swap the quadratic formula, because any exams that you guys are doing, the quadratic formula will be provided. However, it doesn't hurt to know the formula by heart. Makes it go faster. So let's apply our substitution. So we have minus b, and b is 3, plus and minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 4, all over 2 times 1. Now let's simplify, or let's clean up our work. So we have negative 3 plus and minus the square root of what? 3 squared is 9 minus 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 gives me positive 16 all over 2. So x is equal to negative 3 plus and minus the square root of 25 all over 2. Now, our final step now to find our values of x. Now, x is equal to negative 3 plus and minus, what is square root of 25 is 5 all over 2. So now we can find what two values our x is going to be. So x is now equal to negative 3 plus 5, because it's a plus and minus 5 over 2, or x is equal to negative 3 minus 5 over 2. So now x is equal to negative 3 plus 5, the same thing as saying 5 minus 3, which is 2 over 2, x is equal to 1. Or x is equal to negative 3 and negative 5, or negative 3 minus 5, negative 8, and negative 8 divided by 2 gives us negative 4. So we have solved. So let's go back to our question. It says that we are to do what? Use the quadratic formula. We did. and solve. And solve means that when you find these values of x where x is equal to 1 and negative 4, these values are the roots of the quadratic equation. And once we have found the roots of the quadratic equation, that means that we have solved the quadratic equation and we have solved it for the variable x. Now, remember we said solving means that what values of x that will make the equation true. So in our question we say x is 1 or negative 4. So we could come ahead now and then plug into our calculators and say, okay, it said x is 1, let's test 1. So, 1 square plus 3 times 1 minus 4. Is that 0? Okay, that's also 0. So 1 makes it true. And then let's just test negative 4 now. And that also true. So therefore, x is equal to 1 and negative 4. Now for question 2, part B. Now, what have we observed about B? Part B says 3 minus 11x minus 4x squared is equal to 0. Let me put this away. Same instruction. We're going to use the quadratic formula to solve each of the following quadratic equation. So let's go again. First, we have our quadratic equation. To make it easier, we can write it in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So my ax squared would be negative 4x squared minus 11x plus 3 is equal to 0. By comparison, we know that what? A is equal to negative 4, B is equal to negative 11, and C is equal to positive 3. We can now substitute the values of A, B, and C into the quadratic equation, which is x is equal to minus b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So let's go ahead and substitute our values. So we have that should be negative 11. Negative times negative 11, so that gives us plus 11. Plus and minus. What's our b? Negative 11 square minus 4 times negative 4 times 3 all over 2 times negative 4. So let me just write it cleaner. So x is equal to 11 plus and minus the square root of 121 minus 12, negative 12 times 4 gives us what? Positive 48. Or that should give us positive 48 all over negative 8. So x is now equal to 121 plus 48. That's 169. So 11 plus and minus the square root of 169. Over negative 8. So the square root of 169 is 13. So we have x is equal to 11 plus and minus 13 over negative 8. So now we can find the two values of x. So x is equal to 11 plus 13 over negative 8. and x is equal to 11 minus 13 over negative 8. So 11 plus 13 gives me 24. So 24 over negative 8 gives me negative 3. And 11 minus 13 gives me negative 2. And negative 2 over negative 8 gives me positive 1 over 4. So therefore, x is equal to negative 3 and positive 1 over 4. And we can test to see if we have solved, if our answers that we have received that we have gotten have solved the question. Let us test it here now. So 3 minus 11 times negative 3 minus 4 times negative 3, negative 3 square equal, and we get our 0. So we can test it now for the positive 1 over 4. And that too is also true. So therefore, the values of x are negative 3 and a quarter. Alright guys, thank you for watching.